Hello, good afternoon, and you're welcome to today's edition of Ghana's leading business analysis show, Beyond the Numbers. This afternoon, we take a closer look at the Aksa power deal, following the conviction of a former Goldman Sachs banker over a bribery scheme linked to the deal. Signed in 2015 at the height of Ghana's doomsday crisis, the deal was intended to boost the country's power supply and was renewed in 2022 for another 15 years. But with growing calls for its termination, the big question is, what has the deal actually delivered for Ghana's power sector? And would terminating it be the best decision? Well, here on Beyond the Numbers, we look at the data behind the deal. I am Michelle Ejekum, and of course the gentlemen are here. Isaac Kofi-Addo is here, and Winston Talkie. It's good to have you guys back.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, last week you were,
in the Bahamas.
He was away. What's about Bahamas that you are always there? You are always there every week, anytime you are.
Don't joke in the Bahamas. It's just a relaxing mood, you know what I mean?
Is it a coded place in Ghana or the Bahamas we know?
You shall know later.
But I mean, Kofi, Monday was a very, insightful conversation with Sami Jemfi Esquire, and obviously today would touch on it again. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the conversation. One thing I was looking out for him to tell us was one question he didn't give a definite answer for. Where are you able to trace where the gold that you're buying is coming from? But we'll get to that anyway. And I'm hoping someday we're able to have that traceability that we're looking
very
for.
Important.
But let's move on today into our market headline, and of course the Aksa deal. It's been a talk of town for, I think, starting this week. But first of all, for viewers who are probably now chancing on this, Kofi, let me start with you. You want to tell us exactly what this Aksa deal is about?
Well, it's all about the independent power producers. We've spoken a lot about on this show. We've said that if you look at Ghana's power grid, we get about 70% from the independent power producers. Remember, it was in 2014, 2015 that we had our power crisis, and the solution around that time was to bring on board independent power producers, in this case, thermal plant. And Aksa was one of the companies, a Turkish company, who wanted to win one of the deals and produce power in Ghana. So they consulted Goldman Sachs as the transaction advisor, and also to help them get this deal done in Ghana. And Goldman, as we all know, owns about 16% of Aksa, right? It has about 16% stake in Aksa. So when that happened, there's a certain Bekon, Asante Bekon, Kweku Asante Bekon, who was working with Goldman Sachs as the executive, one of the executives, so Goldman's, outlet in London. He was assigned. Why? Because Bekon was half Ghanaian, half American. So if you want somebody who knows the Ghanaian terrain, and if you read about Bekon, you see that there's somebody who knows a lot about the energy sector, and also Ghana's, energy sector. Later on became the MD of Tor in the second stanza of Akufo-Addo for about 3 months or so. So this is somebody who knows a lot about our energy sector. So he was consulted to help get this deal through, right? And according to the court documents from the US, Bekon, in getting the deal done, decided that he was setting up, sort of like a bribery scheme where two fake companies or shell companies were set up in Ghana to receive money from the US, distributed it to help the deal sail through. Goldman Sachs, around that point, I think somewhere around June 2015, realized there was foul play. So they decided to start investigating, because some monies were paid. And if you ask Bekon and Co, who were leading, they said they were just to facilitate the deal. Some were for visa payment, some were for car rentals and all of that. But Goldman Sachs wasn't satisfied with that answer that Bekon gave. And it went on and on. Bekon, I think at a point, even resigned from Goldman Sachs. But the deal still went through. Aksa got the deal to provide about 370 megawatts of power, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, what this court document that we've cited actually tells you is the fact that, according to the court document, a total of about 2.5 million was actually paid or scheduled to be paid in bribe. $700,000 was already paid. Parliamentarians were involved. team from the power ministry. People are fingering the power minister then and all of that. But importantly, I think on this show, what we are looking at is the whole, ecosystem when it comes to the power deals. Most of them, in fact, they were take or pay. In the energy sector, you have either take or pay or take and pay. Take or pay means that when you sign the contract, whatever power that will be produced, whether you consume it or not, you have to pay for it. Take and pay means you pay for the part that you consume, right? And we signed almost all the deals were take or pay. And we all know how that became a big burden on our energy sector. And this is why many are asking that if bribes were paid to get Aksa through, did it really have any impact on the approval of the deal? And if a court of competent jurisdiction has actually convicted Beacon on this count, what do we then do locally with a deal that was signed here with Aksa? So I think that's the whole, if you're hearing about this for the first time, or you want a quick breakdown of the whole deal, I think that this is the genesis of this whole Aksa deal thing.
Well, with the insight that you've given, I'm sure that there's someone asking, okay, so if these are the controversies arising, and Beko has already been sentenced, or he's still, he's still going through
November.
Going through the the hot soup till the final verdict is given. Why do we still keep this deal? But Winston, how beneficial has this deal been for the country?
If you look at it from the technical perspective, the time that this deal came by, were really under severe doom. So data from some of the research shows that we're losing about $2.2 million daily due to doom. So businesses were shut, unemployment crisis were imminent. If you look at GDP, if you look at the estimated amount we're losing, about 2% of our GDP losses between 2011, 2014, when all these conversations were quite light. And these were critical times where most of the agreement to have this pass through were approved by the president, went through parliament. So the speed and the urgency were critical because one would say in desperate situation, due diligence was not done enough. We saw ASEP raising red flags initially. I recall those times they were quite hard on some of the independent power producers, Ben Boache, and or even then, Ibrahim, the former finance minister, the last finance minister before.
You go on.
He was Mr. Adams, who was then also at ASEP then. Amin Adams. He was also quite vociferous.
He was with ASEP around that time.
Exactly. So there were serious conversation about due diligence, the cost-benefit analysis, the pegging of those deals in dollar terms, considering the fact that we had unstable currency situation. Eventually, we saw the accumulation of our debt. Until then, there has not been comprehensive analysis and restructuring of our energy sector debt. All we keep seeing is the cost burden, the losses being poured on the ordinary consumers. ACG's inefficiency came to light. So the take or pay conversation Kofi brought to light was quite critical. Aksa, if you look at it, then it was critical, but now we can still operate without Aksa, considering the number of independent power producers and the supply. There are issues about underutilization of the power produced. We produce so much but underutilized. And if you look at it, whatever Aksa produced, then only 16% was used across the value chain. But the unfortunate situation we find ourselves in, if we decide to abrogate the contract now, there will be replications in terms of cost. However, if you look at it from the other angle, we are still bound by contractual agreements. We've currently, Aksa has a about 15-year deal to supply a power plant in Takrady. We already have a power plant in Kumasi. Well. So these are critical elements considering where we are heading towards to. And these years of agreement has kept us bound. What are they able to meet? What are some of the facilities which ASEP are described initially as old, which were put together? But however, are they meeting the demand? Yes, they do. Eventually, we are yet to see how the Attorney General, who reiterated that the key personalities fingered in this judgment locally will be put before prudent court of jurisdiction and be prosecuted. We're all waiting for the details as to that. But however, we know how when politics mixes with law, it becomes a dirty and muddy water. We hope this time round it will be done critically because the interesting aspect is that every message, every information that led to his prosecution, there were trace documents to that effect. And so, yes, we are currently here, 370 megawatt in terms of how much the initial agreement gave us, but now they are producing around 1,558 megawatt of power, telling you how critical the expansion have increased over the years. So yes, they are a critical component of our energy pool.
Well, let's also look at the Ameri deal in 2015 when it was signed up, I think about $510 million US. And you know, we're always in a hurry to sign deals of these sorts in the term, I mean, in the term of it's an emergency. And then later on you realize that there are controversies, there are legal issues. But for the Ameri case, it was, you know, it was cancelled, it was terminated. Why are we holding on to this? Or do you think, Kofi, that let's say after the investigations have been done here, we could be having another Ameri deal 2.0?
Well, Ameri is a good test case, a good litmus test for what should happen to maybe Aksa, right? Not to say that the deal should be cancelled, but whatever decision you will make, you have to review the contract, review Aksa's operation, and all of that before you can make certain decisions. And just like you said, already we did a review in 2021, which the finance minister then, Ken Ofori-Atta, had said that in terms of the restructuring of some of the contract, we are saved between $5 to $7 billion around that time. Although we're paying close to about $500 million in excess capacity. And just like Winston said, if you look at the lifespan of Aksa, within the first 5-year period, according to ASEP, we're using about just 16% of the power that they produce. So the question is, how urgent was the need for such a power plant, right? And you're talking about Ameri. Also remember that this was one of the deals that we decided to review. Almost all the power contracts were reviewed, and Aksa was one of them that stood that test. And Ameri and co, some of them got their contracts, cancelled. And you know where it's landed us. In some cases, we have to pay judgment debt, the Trafigura situation, about $140 million US. So just like Winston said, there are a lot of legal angles to this, power deals. And the fact that we've even have now a 15-year contract with Aksa. The first part was just about 5 years. They were done with that, and now we've signed another 15 years. The question is, did we do proper due diligence with this new 15-year contract that we have with them? Because the numbers Winston mentioned or put out should tell you that the Aksa we brought in 2016, 2017 to produce emergency power has moved from being an emergency power producer now to a substantive or an important or a significant part of our power value chain or production mix. We all know what happened to Akosombo the early part of this year and how that almost put the entire country in crisis. There was doomsday all over the place. Why? Because if Akosombo should go down, the question is, do we have enough to be able to produce? And we saw that there were instances where some of the power plants were even produced below capacity. Some of them had technical issues, some of them were, money issues, fuel and all of that. So the question is, if we have moved from just 370 megawatts to about 1,400 megawatts, where Aksa has become an important part of our energy mix. How easily do we go about just reviewing and saying that, well, because of a $1 million or $1.25 or $2.5 million bribe, we are foregoing this? What is the opportunity cost? What is the legal cost? What are the legal ramifications to deciding that maybe we are going to pause, we're going to review? What is the contract even saying? That's why some of the CSOs have said that make available some of these power deals that you actually sign public, so that there can be reviews. It shouldn't only be Parliament Energy Committee that will go through some of it, because there are technical things that some of the CSOs believe that they need an input there, right? So the question is, if we decide to pause, what is the cost? If we decide to cancel, what is the cost? And if we are deciding to keep, what is the hidden cost that we simply do not know? So I think that these are questions that we need to ask ourselves even before we decide that whether we are going to cancel or keep the...
The underlying conversation which most of us are trying to avoid is the fact that we have decided to play politics with our energy sector. And that I see as an underlying factor until when political platform become a banter tag name, Dunso, Power. Everybody's afraid to endure, they go through the due diligence to ensure that things are done prudently. When the energy minister begins to walk through those scrutiny, they are tagged differently within the structure. I'm sure Mr. Jenapo had his case. Every energy power minister had their case. Immediately, there's power outage. You see cabinet meeting, straight instruction to the energy minister to do at all costs what he must to ensure power is sustained. And
that was what happened in 2015.
That's what happened. And we are seeing the same thing this time around. Let's not forget, the first thing the president did when he came to power, that's President Mahama, on the 13th of January 2025, was to bring together all the IPPs and instructively discuss with them the imminent challenge, letting them understand that we have $2 billion in terms of shortfall in our energy sector, still mentioning ECG as a sick man with over 40% losses. That was one of the conversations that came to light. So if you look at the overall outlook of the distributor to the efficiency level of distribution and the losses that they consistently been generating, ECG cannot be somehow blamed holistically. But if you look at the contractual basis of all the power negotiation, ECG is likely designed to be at a losing end. Now, there are conversations to bring other independent producers or distributors within the value chain. That is a conversation staffs of ECG are kicking against, because until that came to light, now we see ECG saying we are declaring profits. Where were the profits coming from? Where this issue? So it tells of key issues. And I'm not surprised that this Goldman Sachs situation has come to light, because if you do research consistently, you come across one very important tagline: scramble of African resources. Anytime there is a challenge in Africa,
there's a crisis.
The crisis in Africa, the solutions are all designed to loot the poor. From mining sector, if you go across Africa, Congo, to the extent that instances where civil wars are generated to ensure there are chaos for some of the resources to be looted. We had a very situational challenge, to the extent that we went to Akosombo, where some people were praying for the water to come. It was very eminent. Water situations were scarce. The rainfall pattern, the levels at Akosombo was eminent. So it was a crisis where the city too was having its own crisis. But when we tend to politicize that situation, that brings us to where, when we analyze the situations objectively, we take away our emotions and politicize it because we want to sustain power. Beyond power, we have a long-standing energy power plant sustainability model, framework. Every party that comes to power goes against the framework and decides to bring on several contractual agreements that keep the nation bound. They will go out of power, but you and I will still be paying those debts. Let's not forget that taxes recovery have all been at the pumps. We are still paying for energy recovery levy. These are situational cases that have been caused by some of these negotiations that have gone through Parliament.
That's very important.
That have gone through Parliament that we are still paying. So let's always be critical. Like I said, irrespective of which party is in power, this government are doing their bit. We'll still stay critical about whatever action they take and ensure that everything that is done are prudent, reasonable, and also ensure that the long-term benefit will not inure against us as a nation.
Mr. Owens, remember the debt restructuring phase? There was that phrase that went all over the place, burden sharing. I remember that when President Mahama came in his second stanza, Winston said he met the energy sector players, especially the IPPs. And the discussions were that the talks about restructuring and haircut that started under the erstwhile administration, that there were difficulties in accepting some of the terms. How do we go about it to make sure that we restructure some of the debts in the IPPs? Because the legacy debt was actually sinking the country. And so the question is, now that these IPPs have sat down at the negotiation table and together have decided to forgive the country about $240 million or so to bring the IPP's debt below $2 billion, how then do you go back to some of them who, some courts, judgments are pointing to the fact that some of their contracts may have been influenced by bribes and all of that, tell them that, well, we are cancelling it or we are deciding to review, to pause and all of that. So that burden sharing approach or that crisis we also got places the country in a difficult situation. And I have said, Aksa at the moment will be difficult to just discard or to just put aside and say that we are continuing without Aksa.
Yeah.
Just imagine 1,004, not even that, some of them are installed or some of them are about to happen. But if you look at Aksa's real power, that the dependable capacity that they give to the country, that's about 370. At the moment, we're able to use about 70%, sometimes 60% of what they produce, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, if we decide to even pause, what is the effects on the energy sector of the country or the energy supply of the country? Are we likely to see parts of the country also going through doomsday and all of that? So it's a very difficult position. But I think that the important thing is that, in terms of bribe, there's always the demand and the supply side.
Yeah.
The U.S. side has done their best to investigate those who gave the money, those who facilitated this.
No,
on our side, let's look at those who demanded and those who received it, right? I think that is also the point that we have to get to put the issue to sleep, because we need to find those who were in the whole chain or in the whole network of this bribe scheme and all of that. With that, the ordinary Ghanaian will know that, well, I'm not just paying that 1 cedi additional levy on the export price of crude because of some of these deals and inefficiencies of ECG or the power sector.
Well,
according to the transcript, one of the clients said that he was waiting for the holy rain.
The holy rain.
The money was. Do you know that there were also Ministry of Power Girls who were staff of the...
Not Power Rangers, so Power Girls.
Power Girls. They were paid about $20,000. And people are asking, so if people could take around that time, $20,000, $500,000, $1 million to get some of these deals through, the question is, Aksa can be just the snowball. This is just a part of, this is a sample of the bigger. So if Aksa maybe paid their way through, how much more others? If you put together maybe all the bribes that were paid, because I saw a part of the document that says that if you look at the lifespan of the fake consulting companies that were set, in over 3 years or 4 years, some of the companies were set to get about $46 million from this deal. So it tells you how people have actually milked the state dry as a result of our crisis in 2014 and 2015.
So the pipeline that they said is in the pipeline, this pipeline is dry.
It's dry. But guys, before we wrap up on this one, I mean, the IMF has stated emphatically that our energy sector is a major fiscal risk. And has cited that our finances is one thing which is driven by the high distribution and then the legacy power contracts. And you made mention of that we do this power play with politics. So the NPP comes into power, they sign a certain contract, they leave, NDC comes to power. I don't know what happens to the contracts that they sign ahead. Do they go back to check if there were some faults or not? But again,
Michelle, let me add a very interesting thing which Akufo-Addo did in April 23, 2025. He introduced to Parliament an LI to ensure all future procurement of power plants is done competitively. You can't just go as an act of Parliament to speedily sign. So this is an LI in Parliament, which was one of the things he made mention during the compact conversation that has to be done.
Well, we'll still be watching and, of course, following this particular story to see what happens here in our local space as well. Who received the money, what happens to them, and moving forward, what happens to contracts of this sort. This is Beyond the Numbers, and of course, this is a wrap on our market headlines. We'll take a breather. We'll be back with big analysis. Please stay with us.
Hello, my name is Pamela from Customer Service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,000 247.
Hey, Abili, wabadim.
Madam, give me the numbers behind your ATM card. I'm calling from the head office.
An email was delivered across to our customers this morning.
Confirm if this is your bank account. 100,100,100.
Thanks for sending your bank card details.
Send the OTP now to avoid cancellation.
EcoBank will never call, email, send an SMS asking for your PIN, OTP, bank card, or Ghana card details.
Don't get played. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Hello, please, I'm calling from Customer Experience Center.
So, this strategy will lead... Oh no, not again.
Say, relax. The generator will come on now.
The generator is not working. Why stress yourself when the experts are just one tap away? Introducing Left Power, the smart emergency support app from Left Signature Limited. With Left Power, certified engineers respond fast, anytime, anywhere. No delays, no stories.
Hello, sir. This is Left Signature Limited. The request has been received and our engineers are already on their way. Please relax. We've got you covered.
This is professional.
Every Left expert is certified, verified, and can be tracked in real time. Oh, you'll know they're coming before they even arrive. From electrical engineering and solar power systems to data center management, cloud services, smart automation, and software development, Left Signature delivers excellence, fast, reliable, and professional. Left Power.
Your solution is just one tap away.
Available on Play Store and App Store.
As the sun rises over the city of Accra, its warm glow settles on one of the city's most thoughtfully planned communities, Lakeside Estate. And once again, something exceptional is unfolding. After the successful sale of our 4-bedroom Orca at Lakeside Hills, a new masterpiece is about to make its debut. An exquisite 4-bedroom story Orca home overlooking a breathtaking landscape of the Abri Mountains. This remarkable home now features a total floor area of 330 square meters, set on a generous 7,140 square foot plot.
We used that year as a transition year. So by the end of February, once we entered March, and the Ghana Accelerated National Reserve Accumulation Program was approved by Parliament, GoldBod stopped being a buying agent for BOG, and we became the buyer and seller of gold, meaning GoldBod now signs offtake agreements, trades gold, and our model is totally different from what the Bank of Ghana was doing under domestic gold purchase program in terms of pricing, in terms of hedging, in terms of how we sell gold and what have you. And so far, so good. We are doing marvelously well. The trade sits on our books.
And there will be no BOG.
And nobody pays our fees.
And there will be no BOG.
With the exception of the baseline program cost, which government has budgeted for 5% under Ghana.
And there will be no BOG in this new equation.
In terms of what?
In terms of being a fiscal agent.
Well, that is what the IMF has said. I don't know where they got that from, but the GoldBod has not appointed
But who gives the IMF information? Is it not authorities?
You should ask them.
But they did the assessments with the Finance Ministry, the Bank of Ghana.
They didn't. I'm telling you,
they didn't. Never spoken to the GoldBod.
I am saying that the BOG is not. The BOG is proposing to be our fiscal agent, but we have not agreed. I can tell you that for free. The BOG is proposing that even though they have exited the domestic good purchase program and will not be the ones financing it, they want to be a fiscal agent. Meaning
to do what? So what are they going to be?
They want to serve as an intermediary to raise funds for us and then settle. And we are saying no, we want to do that ourselves because we don't want any conversations about GoldBod and BOG in the media again. The GoldBod has come of age. It has the systems, the human resources to raise its own funds, buy gold, sell that gold, okay, deal with any incidental costs beyond the baseline program implementation costs budgeted for it by government, and handle this trade efficiently in a way that generates the much needed foreign exchange, help to build reserves, while at the same time generate profit. And so far, so good.
Well, you're still live here on Ghana's leading business analysis show, Beyond the Numbers. And in our big analysis today, we turn to Ghana's gold business and ask a critical question. Can GoldBod survive without the Bank of Ghana? For years, the Bank of Ghana's domestic gold purchase program has played a central role in buying gold, building reserves, and generating foreign exchange. But that arrangement has now changed. As of July 1, the BOG has fully exited the DGPP, with GoldBod taking over the program and assuming the financial risks that come with it. Now, the IMF says the Bank of Ghana will remain GoldBod's fiscal agent and receive monetary gold for reserves while exiting the program's quasi-fiscal risks. But GoldBod is yet to formally agree to the agreement. So the big question is, without the central bank's balance sheet and financing behind it, can GoldBod fund its operations, manage its costs, and still deliver the foreign exchange and reserve gains Ghana expects? Well, that's what we unpack today here on Beyond the Numbers. And of course, the solid men are still here with me.
Oh, yeah.
Solid team, we're still here. And shortly, Caleb Zulum will join us on
solid team,
Zoom.
it was solid platform. So what a solid team. Yeah.
We're solid. But yeah, Kofi, you know, just at the time we were starting the show, I made mention that, I enjoyed this conversation. And I mentioned the part where I was
a brilliant interview.
Yeah.
To you, yeah.
It was really good.
Teamwork.
Yeah, it was really
solid
good.
Teamwork.
But BOG, is out.
Yeah.
Sami Jemfi, Esquire, CEO of GoldBod, made a clear statement that BOG has no dealings with GoldBod. And as of now, they're going to raise their funds leveraging on other banks. BOG was not mentioned. And I'm asking, is BOG really out? Winston?
I can't. BOG says they're out. BOG said they're out.
And GoldBod
says they're out.
But then they say that.
Want you anywhere.
If they say they're not in a relationship again, what are you going to say? Are you going to reconcile their relationship? But the interesting aspect is that the gold industry, for several decades, the large-scale mining sector had dominated the terrain until recently, when the precious mineral came to light, we saw their play. Yeah. But the GoldBod has come in to formalize gold receipt in the small-scale sector. Yeah. They call it artisanal small-scale sector. And that gave the Bank of Ghana assurance because now they can know how much of the gold is coming through. Over the years, if you look at the trade data, export data that we literally release in Ghana, compared to the receipts in other countries like the Arab Emirates, they're about $4 billion in terms of exchange. Yeah. Tells you a lot has been smuggled. So the numbers were not corresponding to the receipt or exported. So every year we keep losing so much in terms of gold receipt. Export, the environmental implications were there. Let's not forget, if you go to some rivers across key mining communities, hugely polluted. The environmental degradation are high. The implications are high on our food, livelihoods, communities. The farming communities are being leveraged for mining and galamsey operations. And this is because the gold sector has become quite vibrant. GoldBod coming to play tells you that as quick as GoldBod has come to play, we must set our systems, prosecutorial structures, so that to ensure that galamsey, those who flout their regulations, are prosecuted, set as examples. Cost implications are also put on people who go against the operations. We've seen instances where they said one of the assayers has been prosecuted, is being placed before the court of jurisdiction, answering to lack of commitment to some funding modality. So these are what we want to see about transparency, because the gold sector initially were played in secrecy, but GoldBod is bringing transparency in some aspect of the operation. 1 year and a half in operation, we've seen the ripple effect on the reserves, we've seen the ripple effect on the CD, we've seen ripple effect on how the government, the central bank can boldly say, we have enough reserves. When the city wants to mess up, they said, we have enough reserves. We can intervene when we can. And this is the assurance that have been a burden for several years. In terms of how much of the dollar we had previously, we saw our reserves dwindling. And that was a huge risk. We had to do debt restructuring, huge risks. These are all implications. You can see from afar and say, these are just macro challenges facing the economy. But if you come down, it affects you directly and indirectly. And these are, for GoldBod to say they can't now stand on their feet, is a huge release for us as a country, because now, for temporarily, we are here to see at the end of their first financial year as an independent corporation, how they can be able to manage their losses. The risks that are all there, from the global risks in terms of shortfall, are all there, pricing risks, compliance risks, enforcement risks, how the security agencies are going to collaborate, the finance ministry, how is we already know our internal revenue has not that much. GRA has given assurance. They always give assurance. They always meet their targets. But if you go to the overall revenue outlook, we don't always get enough surplus when we compare going forward. But I think that the governor says they are out. GoldBod CEO said, we can consider you because
as a fiscal agent. As
a fiscal agent, but we've not approved you yet. And it's something they may consider going forward. But so now we can only hold them by their words.
This was just to make emphasis on really whether BOG and GoldBod has no business moving forward. But Kofi, in the latest news, GoldBod has raised some $75 million. And I mean, on Monday, Sami mentioned that, look, we're standing on our own. We're going to raise our funds. And we know that GoldBod is supposed to buy the gold and sell. When we look at how much it's raised, are you convinced enough for the future of GoldBod standing alone?
Well, the $75 million raise is a good test and to tell the market that we are ready. We are ready to stand on our own. We are ready to trade on our own. But you all know the story of Samuel in the Bible, right? Well, so GoldBod is like the Samuel in this whole economic equation where their parents is the government of Ghana. It was the government of Ghana, which is Hannah, which is supposed to take care of GoldBod. But in 2025, they didn't have what it takes to take care of GoldBod. So they sent Samuel to Eli, which is the BOG. Now Samuel is grown. The mother says that bring him back, I can take care of him, right? So GoldBod is coming back on the books of government. They've received support and all of that. And the question is, if you look at the risks associated with the Bank of Ghana's DGPP, and GoldBod says that was the Bank of Ghana's program.
Losses,
So the questions we asked were that if you believe that it was the Bank of Ghana's program, why are you taking that significant part of the the credit? And he says that, well, we are taking credit for what we contributed. Now, what we are asking ourselves is the risks that came with the Bank of Ghana's DGPP, where the losses were about 15% of the gross gold purchase. Is it going to be the same situation with GoldBod? GoldBod says no. We are working to reduce that loss because government of Ghana itself, the fiscal agents are saying that they are making plans. Why? Because government itself also has the Ghana Accelerated, Reserve Program. The GANRAP is supposed to get about 15 months of import cover by the end of 2028.
Yeah.
So government is also spending towards that, and so it's helping GoldBod with that. But with all that said, you asked an important question whether Bank of Ghana is completely out. If you look at the equation, and even with this, the new model of GoldBod, there is no way Bank of Ghana can be out completely.
Yeah.
So I think that the question Sami answered was whether they are going to accept the Bank of Ghana as the fiscal agent.
Fiscal agent, yeah.
And in this situation, the Bank of Ghana is not going to use high-powered money to sponsor GoldBod, but it's going to facilitate the 23 dealer bank. Because who takes care of the 23 dealer bank? It's the Bank of Ghana. So if you want money from the 23 dealer banks, and the Bank of Ghana is saying that I can help you, it possibly is in the right direction, but they're saying that they are now assessing it to see whether they would like to keep the Bank of Ghana on the equation. But he made an important point that we don't want any issues with Bank of Ghana losses and all of that. Why is that important? Because GoldBod believes where we are at the moment it still remains an assurance. That if you look at how the Bank of Ghana did the DGPP, where they were buying the gold, or they were telling agents like GoldBod to buy the gold at the Bloomberg reference rate, they are not going to do that. According to him, they are going to use the LBMA pricing system, the AM and the PM, which is going to smooth out the irregularities or the fluctuations in the curve in terms of the prices. That Sami or GoldBod believes that it's going to reduce the losses associated with the program. He also made mention that they are not only going to rely on the banks, but also they are making arrangements with some of the off-takers to have contracts with them in advance. And remember, we asked an important question about, is this going to be COCOBOD 2.0? Because we know about syndicated loans, we know about, locking in the price forward sale and all of that. And Sami says that, well, if you look at what they are hoping to do, their whole GoldBod forward sale agreement is completely different. They are not going to forward sell, but they have contract that they are not going to lock in prices as the contracts are signed, but they have the luxury of time to determine what the pricing will be at a certain point in time. Now, I'll ask an important question whether they have off-takers who will still be willing to take GoldBod gold when prices are dropping and they can get the gold cheaply elsewhere. Those are important questions. And although GoldBod is giving us assurance at the moment, I still believe that in the whole equation, if you look at the aspects where GoldBod must deliver a part of the gold to the Bank of Ghana to keep as reserve, it still brings the Bank of Ghana in the equation. But I think that the aspect that GoldBod is trying to tell everybody that the Bank of Ghana will no longer play is the fiscal side. And as to whether the Bank of Ghana is the one who is going to mobilize some of the 23 dealer banks to fund GoldBod, it will be interesting to see that model. But I think the IMF was very particular about the direction that GoldBod wants to go. They say that, well, if you look at the risks associated with the program, it is a risk that if you don't take time, if it was a big risk for the central bank, it can be a big risk also for the fiscal side. And we know that with the fiscal side, if it becomes a cost and a big risk, who is going to pay? Is the taxpayer. That is why people are asking questions about the operations of GoldBod. Not that we don't want GoldBod to work. We all know how it has helped the city to stabilize. But the risks still remain. It is so clear that if you run the numbers, if you check the models, if you do the actuarial study, there is still a probability that if we don't change the model we use in 2025, there is a high chance that there will be losses, recorded. And maybe, if we don't want the losses to be on the books of GoldBod, the question is, who is going to take that big blow so that GoldBod can still stand alone as the entity that broke even or made, a profit or a surplus?
Well, Winston, I mean, one issue, we all see that particular problem, right? The fact that GoldBod is unable to give a definite answer as to where the gold you're buying is coming from. The other day, we made mention that until we're able to have that traceability, entering the premium market is still shaky. What do you think that GoldBod, what kind of structure does the GoldBod need to venture into traceability and in terms of moving into the premium market as well?
I think I would like to still go back to Sami Jinsu's statement. He did a space on Twitter before
on Sunday.
Yes, and he reiterated that as of now, there were about 15 companies that are bidding for traceability projects, and somehow about 9 are being considered.
Yeah.
And it hadn't been for sole sourcing, this would have been done a long time. Therefore, because of the open tendering, it had to go through the structure and had to be scrutinized before they come to that. And we've seen instances where sole sourcing is a key challenge for Ghana in terms of public assessment of key contract handed over to agencies or agents. And this is something he says he's not within his jurisdiction to decide until the open tendering is done. So if that system is in place, he initially promised that it's going to be the second quarter of 2026. But due to the delay in processing some of these businesses, this contract, that is why it hasn't happened now. And that is according to his word. Because initially I was wondering if you promised, Kofi and I have been doing assessment on that, because the gold trades, even in cocoa, if you go to some European countries, they were rejecting some of Ghana's cocoa because they said, according to the new UN trade policy, they need to identify the farms, the workers, the sources. So every gold, they can trace every bean of cocoa from the particular soil where it came from. And this is for the gold. It's important because most of the institutions are now taking governance structure into consideration. And if you even go into the US, UK, before you sell any product, they want to know the source. And they have to review the source, whether they are in compliance with certain regulations, internationally, globally. And these are things that are now taken seriously in global trade. And for Ghana to get that standard into certain markets for gold sales, we have to fulfill those compliance. And I think if in 1 year and few, we should have been there already. But the key consideration now is we saying, GoldBod saying in that assessment that they are supplying, they are funding certain elements of water resource, Ghana Water Company's facilities that have been broken down because of galamsey operations and turbidity levels in most parts of the country, investing in some reclamation project in some part of the challenge that we are facing now is this. The gold sector is vibrant. It is growing faster than the regulations. That's what I'm saying. And if we don't deal with it immediately, we are yet to see all our water bodies damaged. We're going to have...
Winston, there's a chart that I want you to show. And I think that this will put the question Michelle asked in proper perspective. There's a chart comparing the trade from this chart, right? This is the previous one.
This one,
3.1 million ounces of gold, small scale, 2.8 from large scale, right? And I asked Ami Jenfi an important question, whether they are able to trace this 3.1 million. Are they able to trace whether it came from mine A, mine B, mine C? And it says that if you look at how the gold is even brought to GoldBod, 5 kg, where aggregators must take different from...
You can't tell the aggregators where to go.
Exactly. So my point is, even with the traceability in full force, we are likely to reject most of the gold because of responsible mining or traceability issues. Because if I take, if I take like 30% from a responsibly mined, site, and I take like 20% from a galamsey site, and with the traceability in full force, my gold is likely to be, rejected. And according to Sami JV, they are now going to take a decision whether they will confiscate the gold or whether they are going to buy that gold at a discounted price.
And that creates another niche for black market operations.
I was making a point that if you look at the sources of the losses under the DGPP, there were forest losses. There were fees, assaying fees paid to agents like GoldBod, and other issues that resulted in the Bank of Ghana making those huge losses. And the question is, if GoldBod is going out completely, who is going to pay for those assaying costs, right? The fees that they were enjoying under the DGPP.
The discounted ones.
Is it the government of Ghana that is going to pay those fees? The forest losses that will be associated with, how are they going to deal with it? And I know that they are going to keep that with the LBMA, AM, and PM. But my biggest challenge is that if we are not able to separate the galamsey gold from the responsibly mined gold, we are likely to have a significant part of the gold that we will aggregate being sold in the discounted market, and that will not help us to put GoldBod in the level that we want to be making losses, to be strong and not bringing financial loss, or to sort of like bring financial burden on the states or any of the central banks.
Well, guys, we have Caleb on Zoom. Caleb, can you hear us?
You have the last bites.
Hi, Caleb.
Hello.
Okay, it's good to have you. Where have you been? But anyway, we've been talking about GoldBod, and you are one particular person that has so much interest in this particular topic.
Yeah.
Now, on Monday, Kofi asked Sami Jemfi Esquire if we're going to make some losses or gains or profits end of year. He mentioned that he's keen on the fact that we're going to make some profits. But looking at the operations and how GoldBod is now a standalone institution, no longer backed by BOG, raising its own funds, buying gold, going through its own operations without BOG overseeing anything. Do you think that this profit that we're looking to achieve by end of year is possible?
Well, I think it's possible in the current sense because if you look at the new terms of arrangements, the finance ministry is taking 5% of the cost while GoldBod takes just 1%. So looking at the way the mechanism is being set up, you will still see that if you're going to look at GoldBod's own books, they might look clean at the end of the day because the government is going to take 5% of the program cost while GoldBod takes care of just 1%. So in a very short answer, I think, yes, GoldBod might come out looking squeaky clean. But then if you look at the overall costs involved in the project, you see that there's a significant loss that's still going to be made. But then again, it might just not sit on GoldBod, on the books of GoldBod, but it might sit mainly on the books of the central governments because we now know that the government is now financing some of these things. So I think from that perspective, GoldBod might come out looking at might come out looking at very clean. But the inefficiencies within the entire system, even though it's supposed to be brought down to about 5% now or 6% now, there's still room for improvement, which is why GoldBod says they are looking to reduce the cost further in the future to, I think, 0% by 2028. But I think the question of today's show is whether GoldBod can survive without BOG. I think we should also ask the question whether BOG can survive without GoldBod. And that's very important because you look at the numbers from the BOG, about 50% of their foreign inflows came from the domestic gold purchase program in 2025. And if you are taking that portion out of it, the BOG is definitely going to wonder how they're going to plug that hole and the mechanisms involved in that of how GoldBod and BOG and then the Ministry of Finance can now work because BOG is taking a step back or taking out of the project now. So I think all of these things will come into focus in the coming days.
Well, thank you, Caleb, for joining us. You came too late, but guys, we're wrapping up.
Yes, I'm picking information in the grapevine that the Finance Ministry, GoldBod, and some commercial banks are likely to release a framework either before the end of this week in regards to the conversation. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, but we want to leave viewers with this small detail before they go. $12.4 million in terms of $1 billion in terms of our outlook in 2026. Since that is literally 69% of our total export, which is the gold. We have just cocoa giving us 2.2 billion, whilst oil 1.7 billion and other ancillaries 1.7 billion. So telling you that gold is holding the economy.
In summary, gold is a blessing, but a big vulnerability. If you
the same happened to cocoa.
If you're looking at this chart, it's a big vulnerability, right?
Well, guys, in all, I think GoldBod is really doing some good work, and we hope that we're able to create more opportunities and have more profits as well. But here's how we wrap up today's edition of Beyond the Numbers. I am Michelle Ejekum, and I did this with
Isaac Kofi-Addo.
And I'm Winston Taki.
The pulse is next with
Kenneth Jesse.
And I can confidently say this live arrangement things boys are doing, we started it. So we try to do one or two twists